C. Stewart Jr.
Present.
Wilson C. Stewart Jr. is present. Chair, you have 2 members available, but you don't need a quorum for this leadership meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. I'll go ahead and do the invocation at this time. Let us bow our heads and pray. God. Aganaho ara hondo na honitjan. Behead nihidigan lenigido hot out in. Ben he get just little hundred and heels cartons. By nitjan, our creature in a bed then the ill thing. That ever hini nasa, sign hitchin the hintna. As art ego in an and hihunta, it was only gave a honitjan, and a hint not about honitjan. I hear hot out. When I can get to see it, crow, so deals and job by any general. But under a count, the Ilzico. A call. What's on the gay? But then it little. A shorter. Ben kissing. That echo. The national joy get on a wheat auto. Any not all lana nature. And the fatable on the head in Italy. As you hot out in Navajo had it end. One nasi cassa. That eho, Nahas chamber in it, aid on it and hidden edo. Chana neat lego. Nas, ye cut or less. Ash or in hit honla. Nikasala and habit honlon hazel and down. A corner in job and snake. Need a ne. Yat eho. Yat in the doubtless. Fast confident and habaj in a pash order. Nehnant Adan Lenny store. Yat ehon the heat arrowless. In the account and for that then a sense to spread that then. Yat eho the she. Bad at evening. I don't he can't get a shore. Though you need Aaron had a husky. The Daniels on the ILZ. But on the head and eat let oh, I isn't done his chon at the hot let that I said at last I said and now I hear Basha. So what errors had a heat this and letter. The hands are going watch either Ligahese Hassan. The natural Lara. Ik had niet het laten beken deel nisla. As horn het aan de hondle. Je chopa olje jo en hine jo. Dan dat je niet eerlijk. Ik heb niet uit van ben ik het lehe. Ik heb niet die lenige. Dat niet klinischen corona had ajor na ik eel toch het als je het niet olle. Niet het hondle as horen. On second job body and yet the nation Jesus Christ. Amen. Gotcha. None at all. Like introductions. We'll start with RDC. Honorable Stewart and Chidela. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Gushing, Shania, Chairman. Aro. He's going to only get this morning staff and the conscious chain, the conscious Mayajaka, Aro and the EPA staff, and then the Aro is not Angie this morning. Yet, honest, go a Wilson C. Stewart Jr. A Dishnato, Twitsoni Angela, no, Education, Bashchin, Kachin, that should shade up, be between the Chanella, Aro Atel, that Nietzsche Hashna, though could a but Hadashagi itself, so back El sheet once alone he did. That deal, Sanagi K and the Nigi, but Hadasha, I don't know that corner for Defense Agency that represents for the Resource Development Committee. Arkansas, Shania, thank you for the prayer this morning.
Yeah, it's a Chair Rick Nursing, she has a or Zay Kachin, Bashish Chins and Abitness Chedo, Kia, Ani National Hotel and Enschledo, Hogback, San Juan and Hanza, Upper Full and Burnham and Newcomb, Epanashnish. response anban so ke not for kro question that so kiso kro sahalle michel khonot sonigi EPA do DCD ajin michel nan of senigin kisendale nishigido handale education kro ya e ho na hat anabikia dil ke or less kashen nas nan at all staff could you introduce yourself Mr. Tahi?
Good morning, Chair, members of RDC, and our participants online. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm the Legislative Advisor to Resource and Development Committee. I'm Kia Ani and Senja Kine, and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Woody? Mr. Woody, are you able to unmute?
Chair, Teresa is having problems with her computer microphone again.
Okay. Ms. Khan? Honorable Freeland?
Chairman, good morning. Colleagues and staff, good morning from Eastern Agency. These introductions, Chairman.
Oh,
Okay. Colleagues and staff, Senigi. Jay Marks Freeland, the Shira, the Senigi Tutsoni, Sloan up Kia, Ani, Senji Kenneth, Chair. I represent 8 chapters out of Eastern Agency, Crown Point, Nahadiski, Tehe, the Senti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herpano, and Nayerza.
Come in and talk 3 to 5 business days
Okay.
from Butler's.
All right.
So I'm gonna go over there
All right.
because this thing about listen,
Okay. It'll
Thank
take
you,
3 to
Honorable.
5 business. Take 3 to 5 business days, you know. So I also have 23 other chapters as the Eastern representative on RDC. 31 chapters in total. So thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you for joining the call with us this morning, Honorable Freeland. Do we have any of our colleagues on the call with us? None. Let me go to EPA, Ms. Shirley.
Chairman, can you hear me?
We hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's a minute on also. Not Ani Noslini, RDC committee members. Beshmasta sa Anida Noslini. Shinat Ani, yeah, it's a happy new year in Hidini Doles. Ado Balachin Quagi, Shik A Noslini Quagi, Hashin Sago, Di Bene, the Yin Hiswan Noslonigi, so yad eh Hidini Doles. Ado Shay Valinda Shirley and Shia, Ado Touchy need an Enchla. There's a Sunday Bashashin, but I need a Shado, Tutness, the need a Chanel, Shay, Quagi, Navajo EPA, Banashnish. Ado Shahat Nana. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. Do you have staff with you?
Yes, sir, I do. I have Mr. Warren Roan with me, and then I also have Mr. Merv Lynch with me as well.
Okay. They can introduce themselves.
Good morning. This is Warren Roan. Tkabahanshle, Kanagahni Bashishin, Tkurijini Dashiche, the Bethlehem Dashanale. I am the Environmental Department Manager for the Waste Regulatory Compliance Department. I'm under Navajo EPA. Good morning and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan. Next.
Good morning, Merv Lynch at your service. Guys, cheating in Sean Santa Connect, Bashishin, Honagatni, there's a che, Auto, Kinexi, Rushanella, Saka Hotzonadant Nasha. Thank you very much for allowing me to introduce myself, sir.
Thank you. May everybody please mute your phones. Thank you. Dr. Yellowman. Anybody from DCD on the call?
Yeah, this is Samlatsa Jim Martin on the call from the Division of Community Development. Happy New Year to our leaders and all those on the call. I am here representing the division with Dr. Yellowman, who's also on another call right now, as well as our team from the Solid Waste Management Task Force. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jim Martin. Which staff do you have on the call with us?
We have our staff member, Zanabat, who's on the call. She can introduce herself if she's not on another call.
Okay, go ahead. None? Okay, we'll move right along. Anybody else on the call that wishes to introduce themselves?
Good morning, Mr.
None?
Chair. This is Mariana Khan.
Go ahead, Ms. Khan.
Good morning, one and all. I am Mariana Khan, and I work with the Navajo Nation's Resources and Development Committee. Very happy to be on this call this
Hello, can you hear me?
That's my
Yes,
Angie.
thank you.
Okay, don't want to take up any more time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for joining our call. At this time, the purpose of our leadership meeting is the Resource and Development Committee has requested a leadership meeting with the Navajo Environmental Protection Agency and the 5 agencies present to discuss the illegal dumping of solid water waste in grazing areas. So 3 on the agenda, presentation discussions. The presentation on this will be conducted by first, our presenter is Division Director of EPA, Ms. Shirley. You have the floor and your staff.
Yeah, it had been in Anna. What I have prepared for this morning's presentation is just a quick overview of the Resource Conservation Recovery Program. I will be going through that discussion. And then the second item, the proposed surge charge or taxes by legislation to prevent illegal dumping. That is the second item I will be covering. And then I'll be handing off the last item, partnering with chapters to develop solid waste codes and ordinance to safeguard grazing areas, to Mr. Warren Rowe. So please allow me to begin. In the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program is a program that works with the solid waste regulations here on the Navajo Nation. The RCRP program, that's what we call it, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program, is within the Waste Regulatory Compliance Department within Navajo EPA. And this program is under the leadership of Mr. Warren Rowe. And in the past year, there has been, I'm encouraged to say that there have been some improvements, or how would you say, paths forward under Mr. Warren Rowan's leadership. And one of the things that we are doing this year is tracking. So we are tracking all of the complaints that come into our office. And we are also looking at working with the Navajo Land Department, specifically the GLAD Department, to collect solid waste open dumping violations. So we have been tracking. So that's one item that I wanted to say that we're doing this year. And now let me see if I can pull up a presentation here to share real quickly.
Ms. Shirley?
Yes, sir.
Are you done?
No, I'm trying to find I'm trying to share
Okay.
a PowerPoint. So
Okay.
my apologies. Let me go ahead and find that PowerPoint or share the PowerPoint. Mr. Warren, are you able to pull up that PowerPoint that was from the Resource Conservation Recovery Program?
Yes, let me do that. Okay.
And,
Is it on the screen?
yes, it is. Thank you. We can go to slide number 3. And then Shanat Ani, what I have here is a table that was submitted by the Resource Conservation Recovery Program. And this is data that they've collected from October 2021 to December 2021. So this is the first quarter of the fiscal year. They've documented and they've broken out just tables by agencies. So they have Eastern, Fort Defiance, Northern, Central, Western, and then there's a total column at the end as well too. So they have received a total of 30 complaints within the past quarter. And it looks like, according to the data that they have here, there has been 9 complaints from Fort Defiance, and then the next highest is from Western Agency with 8 complaints. And then after they receive a complaint, they have to go out and do an inspection. So it looks like there were 15 inspections that were conducted in the first quarter of fiscal year 2022. And then of these inspections, if they are able to find a responsible party, they do a notice of violation. So within the first quarter, there were 10 notice of violations that were issued. And it looks like the most notice of violations that were issued were in Fort Defiance Agency with 4. And then from there on, they also have here civil orders. We have submitted or developed a case within Resource and Conservation Recovery Program. What I mean by develop a case is the first thing that we do, of course, is receive a complaint. And then from there, we respond by doing an inspection. And when we're doing our inspection, if we find a responsible party, we can issue out a notice of violation. And then we have within our regulations that we can issue up to about 3 notice of violations. Afterwards, it becomes a civil case. And so we have one case that we have identified a responsible party, and we have been engaging this responsible party to address the open dump that they are responsible for. And in that case, we did refer that to the Navajo Department of Justice to receive further guidance on. So we have developed one case to where we were able to submit it to the Navajo Department of Justice for further guidance. And then the Resource Conservation Recovery Program, they also do technical advisement. And it looks like there were 15 technical advisements that went out for this first quarter. They also help chapters and other organizations with grants, and they have that listed at 13 total. And then outreach is a big component with doing enforcement. So they have 24 total listed for the first quarter. And then I also wanted to share with you a spreadsheet that I received from the GLAD department. And from the GLAD department, they have a way that they're tracking solid waste as well too. So when they have, when a home site lease is a home site lease application is presented to GLAD, they're able to go on Google Earth and look within the vicinity of the proposed home site lease. And when they identify an illegal dump or an open dump, they report that over to the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program. So let me see if I can, according to this spreadsheet, there are altogether, and we're still continuing to track all of these complaints or all of these violations that come in from GLAD. Altogether, we have over 330 areas that were identified from the GLAD department, and that again has been provided to Navajo EPA, and from there we do the enforcement. So the reason why I bring this up, or I bring this to your attention, Shanat Ani, is that Navajo EPA is very much aware that there is a problem, and the amount of complaints that come into our office, it seems as though every other call that comes into Navajo EPA is regarding illegal dumping or burning of solid waste. So Shanat Ani, we are doing everything that we can currently to address the complaints that come into our office. One of the things that has been an issue in the past is funding. So within the past year, under Warren's leadership, we were able to increase the amount of funding that goes into the Resource and Conservation Recovery Program. We were looking at the funding that that program has received in the past 5 years. And last year, or with this fiscal year 2022, again, under Warren's leadership, there is at least $349,000 that is allocated to this program to continue to address and respond to those complaints as they come in. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, Warren, can you go on to the next, the fourth slide, please? This is the one that I'll have you go over here. And one of the items that are listed on this slide is Jill Grant Law Firm. So that kind of puts me into this next topic here. The proposed surge charge or taxes by legislation to prevent illegal dumping. We have been working with our outside counsel. Our outside counsel is Jill Grant and Associates. And with the idea in engaging our outside counsel was to look at ways in which we could fund the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program. Navajo EPA's programs, a lot of the programs receive outside federal funding, but the Resource Conservation Recovery Program is one that is not directly funded by US EPA. So we use general funds to fund the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program. And so one of the ways that we were trying to, how would you say, get revenue or receive funding to continue to address illegal dumping was by proposing a single-use plastic bag surge fee. So the idea behind this was that, as you all know, the Navajo Tax Commission, they have sole authority to administer and delegate the administration of all Navajo taxes. However, the Navajo Nation EPA, through the Navajo Nation Environmental Policy Act, we have the authority to review and pursue amendments to agency policy and procedures to promote we can promote the fullest extent practical recycling and the use of renewable resources. So we can actually put together a surge fee that we can work with our oversight committee to propose this surge fee. And the intent of collecting those surge fees would be to fund the Resource Conservation and Recovery Program. So we do have a memo that we can share to with our Resource Conservation and Recovery, our RDC oversight, and have them look at this memo and see what they would propose. And Ani, I think this is where I would ask for your guidance. We have been meeting with Eugene So regularly, and we've had chapters come in as well too to Navajo EPA asking for funding. So this, if we were to pursue this surge fee, there have been different ideas that were kind of that we've explored. So one of the options was to do a surge fee on single-use plastic bags and styrofoam. And then the other idea was to do a 1 cent surge fee charge on all plastic bags that you would use at the grocery store. And then there was also an idea of maybe doing a 1 cent tax for every purchase across the Navajo Nation. And the idea, again, would be to generate revenue to address solid waste on the Navajo Nation. So that I do need some guidance from my oversight committee. And this is something that I wanted to kind of dive into and talk extensively on during our work session that we're having to reschedule now. So that's one that I would like to continue or have a discussion on. So please flag that one for me. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, again, I'm pretty sure I'm making Warren blush at this point, but again, under Warren's leadership, we were able to pursue a New Mexico RAID grant, and that grant will allow us to do tire abatement and illegal dumping abatement within the state of New Mexico. Within Arizona, there are no grants that we could pursue to do this, something similar as what we're doing in the state of New Mexico. So that grant is about $150,000 to do outreach and, again, tire abatement and illegal dump cleanup. And then the other thing that we are working on currently is another grant within US EPA to do we're thinking of capacity building. There's been a great deal of interest and requests from chapters on asbestos. So the idea with this grant would be to have several people within Navajo EPA certified to look at asbestos and help us advise chapters. The other idea with the GAP grant is to do 3 hazardous waste drives within the Navajo Nation and to do a illegal dump cleanup within the state of Arizona, because we felt like the state of Arizona needed that assistance, whereas then we could pursue another grant with the state of New Mexico to work with chapters within the state of New Mexico to do solid waste abatement. And then and we would like to also request for your support to do to request for carryover next year. And the idea, again, with the carryover is to continue to address illegal dumping. So Warren, may I turn over this last bit of the presentation to you?
Yes, Belinda, thank you. So the third item on the agenda under EPA indicates partnering with chapters to develop solid waste codes and ordinances to safeguard grazing areas. The Resource Conservation Recovery Program has been in consultation with the Chinle chapter government to begin talks on developing an ordinance. And this ordinance will help address illegal dumping within the chapter boundaries of Chinle. So the chapter officials do have identified areas of concern, and they are more aware of these open dump sites that people contribute to, and also illegal dumping. So currently, the program that consists of Frederick Sherman and Norvina Charleston are in consultation with the chapter officials at Chinle. And right now, what is being drafted up is a memorandum of agreement to where the chapter can enforce parts of the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act, and where they identify an illegal dumper, and that would have to be addressed at the chapter level. So, and we are also keeping in the loop Jill Grant and Associates, and also the Navajo Nation Department of Justice, because they will have to review the memorandum of agreement between the Chinle chapter and also Navajo EPA. So, and there has been ideas on various conference calls to address illegal dumping within the Chinle chapter. And those ideas would involve issuing penalties to illegal dumpers. Currently, under the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Act, when a NOV is issued, and if the NOV is not adhered to by the responsible party, then fines can be imposed beginning at $500 on up. So the Chinle chapter wishes to pursue the same enforcement avenue as NNEPA. So this proposal by the Chinle chapter, provides more personnel on the ground to keep an eye out, and also to effectively address illegal dumping in the vicinity of the Chinle chapter. I know the Navajo Nation EPA Resource Conservation and Recovery Program currently has 2 staff right now and 1 vacancy, and that limits EPA's ability to make a physical presence, and also to follow up on any illegal dumping complaints that come to our office. So, and with this ordinance that's being proposed by the Chinle chapter, it would help in addressing illegal dumping. And they did have questions in regards to if it had to go through enforcement proceedings. There could be dual enforcement with the civil side and also the criminal side. So, and that would have to go through the local judicial process. So, and currently, the chapter is very much interested in performing and implementing the enforcement of the Solid Waste Act through a memorandum of agreement with the Navajo EPA. So this would be the first and only ordinance of this kind on the nation, and perhaps other chapters can follow suit in copying what Chinle is doing. So, and that basically concludes that part, and it would also address, the areas of grazing land as well. So, so yeah, that concludes the portion of partnering with local chapters. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Shanat, that's what we have for you today. Again, just to go back through and say that from Navajo EPA, we are tracking and responding, and then pursuing funding opportunities to help our Navajo communities. And then again, that second item, I do look to you all for some guidance on how we could continue to develop ways to fund our enforcement, and perhaps even the solid waste program that DCD will what they're developing on that side too. And then the third item, again, just to kind of wrap things up, is that we are working with chapters and looking to try to look at the ordinances and our regulations to better respond as well too. So, Shanat, Ani, and then we stand by for questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shirley, as well as Mr. Rohn. Certainly appreciate the presentation and the work that you're all doing. Looks like some goals and objectives are in place, and we'll continue to have updates on these subject matters. It's always good to contact local chapters and work with them to develop these partnerships, and perhaps, as you're saying, develop codes and ordinances, guard those grazing areas, and make sure violators are not doing things that are illegal out there. I know there's a lot of illegal dumping out there, and somehow we need to get a handle on it and do that. And I understand we all need funding, and your request here, funding for enforcement for violators, is a legitimate request, and certainly my colleagues would consider something like that and how to really clean up our Navajo Nation. So thank you, Ms. Shirley, for that. Honorable members of RDC, I have two members that joined the call. Excuse me. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, could you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair, the committee members, and staff, presenters for the leadership meeting today. Thomas Walker H. Western Navajo Agency, communities, chapters. There's 5 of them that I represent: Birch Springs Loop, Tulani Lake, Cameron, and Coal Mine chapters. Na na pi patone je date che totsoni date ko shinal tsatishkijni akot elako yehka ihinane kagi hada hagmegi. So any nagay kujit Navajo Hopi Land Commission aja ahila aja nan shilto atadil o aja that ni traneko nanta. So I apologize for getting on this call late. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Daniels.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Aaron Dakoto colleagues, RDC members, and also colleagues, 24th Navajo Nation Council. Yeah, Adonana Kodo Shudechi Herman Daniels Jr. Adonana Schlinge Betani. Adonana Lizashan Edashje. Adonana Toye Leni Edashche. Kreda Neda. Ado Ashkazo Edashinal or that mentioned on Veda was Jet Hoshat Hosabi Kinonat Ani Banashness. Adonana Kodona Veda, Western Agency representation Kododa on RDC. Mr. Chair, thank you. And also I have a comment Kodona Veda.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr.
Chairman, good morning.
Oh, yeah, an introduction, sir.
Okay, Chairman, I apologize for getting on the call late. We just concluded the Navajo Land Commission meeting and also have another call. But anyway, so 5 chapters that I represent, Low Mountain, Touchy Gap, Solana, Kenwood, Noslin, and Miniform, Deed Ocean, on Innocent, so Deed Ocean, which is also State of Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable Otto Show.
Good morning. Yat Ipena, Ado Chairman, the Resource and Development Committee, Mr. Nash and Ash Che, Yat Ipena, Ado Resource and Development Committee members, Yat Ipena, Ado Ade is not get the presenters, Department Navajo Nation EPA, Ado Ninan Sto as into what Eban the Hasopnet, Yat Ipena, Auto Soul in Shia. Na could network it leaning and is up on Bashin. Look at the net as a che. Oh, it's not Jenny, that's another. I mentioned also here and go on mute.
Oh, yeah, we also have on the call with us from Sheep Springs, Navajo, Shamayasha, Amber Kennesbaugh Crotty. Please introduce yourself.
So, Yatesias, Chairman Nez, RDC committee members, and all of our colleagues on the line, Sheikh Ani Neshla, do Bilagana Bashishin, Deschini Deshiche, do Bilagana Deshanale, Tohatso, Danaksha, Shay Amber Kenasbach Kradi, and I'm on the Navajo Nation Council representing 7 communities of Sheep Springs, 2 Gray Hills, Torlina, Sonosti, Red Valley, Cove, Gadiai, and Biclabato. Thank the committee for this leadership meeting in terms of solid waste. And we've been following the previous administration trying to provide compactors to the communities. And so I think this is a great opportunity as we move forward with ARPA and other discussions on how to keep our communities clean. So thank you, Chairman and committee members, for taking this to the next level in your leadership discussions.
Thank you, Honorable Crotty. Mr. Tahi, could you send out the PowerPoint presentation to Honorable So and Honorable Crotty? Would appreciate that. Thank you.
The chair members of RDC, I'll send that out right now.
Okay, thank you. Nanda, we had a presentation. Okay, I didn't know you were on the call. Eugene So, Major Dahamzi. the former Corman family leadership, Nelson Corm, the late guy Corman does it, yeah. I don't issue now. I don't the Kia on which in league. That's it hard, or yeah, not West you could the development area. I don't issue say, she can't another idea. I don't the twits of me. A session, not a weekly set, a dollar could have built, Joe Martin, but other areas in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable So. And we had a presentation presented by Ms. Shirley and Mr. Rowan this morning. We covered section A, 1, 2, and 3. So if you look at the PowerPoint presentation, do you have any questions on honorable members of RDC?
Chairman, Mr. Chair, this is
Go ahead.
Chairman Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, go ahead.
Okay, our Chairman, our colleagues and staff, good morning. Hello, Ms. Shirley and your team. Thank you for the information. And I wanted to take it a step further on, I always have to advocate for Eastern Agency. And it's a very unique situation we have out here. It's much different from what we term as Big Navajo. And because of land status, checkerboard. And N11 is a prime example. The road that goes from right here by the airport, the Crown Point Fairgrounds, up to the other side of Mariana Lake. On top of that ridge, that's allotment land. And there's a lot of illegal dumping happening up there. And I voiced these concerns to the BIA because of its allotment. How is Navajo EPA and how is maybe the federal EPA and the BIA going to work together to address situations like this in our area? It's a bad situation up there. Is there a way that you and your team can work with the BIA to address this? And every day or every Earth Day, we have a lot of community members that pick up trash, and we do that with our chapters along the road, and N9 or other areas. And at one time, we had a group come out from one of the areas, and we helped clean up one of the neighboring chapters. They had allotments, illegal dumping, and they brought containers. It was actually done at Baka Pruitt. We cleaned up a lot down there. I don't know if we have to mobilize and organize another one of those types of situations for this area. It's very concerning because it's continual. It's like it was cleaned up before, but then the dumping started going again. Now it's out of control. How do we deal with these types of situations when it comes to land status? And I think we need to start looking at revising our penalties, making them more stringent, because a lot of our people are just, I don't know, it costs $1 to dump a bag of trash. I don't know if they have funds for that, but it's concerning. And along a road like that, a pristine road, is when you come down that road and you're driving north on that road, you're able to see areas, you're able to see distances, you're able to see the snow-capped San Juan Mountains of the Bensa. You're able to see Tisnantitli off in the distance. And you're able to see the Chuskas off to the left. But, even Shiprock, you're able to see Shiprock from up there. But when you come across this trash, it's really heartbreaking. It's really devastating. And, I think we need to put up some signs and something up in that area. But I'm really concerned about that in other areas of allotments. How are we going to deal with that? So a continual concern. And I always tell Chairman and my colleagues in RDC, Eastern Agency is a stepchild. And, we are. We're kind of caught between the nation whether it's the BIA or the BLM, and it's hard to work with different land statuses out here. So just a concern of mine, and how can we address that? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Freeland, for that. Let me go back to Ms. Shirley so she can respond. Ms. Shirley?
Thank you, for your question, Shanat Ani Friedland. When it comes to Eastern Agency, it is complicated for us to respond. So there are areas where, of course, we don't have jurisdiction. So in those cases, I know that the Resource Conservation Recovery Program, they do reach out to the state of New Mexico and to other partners that they have or other contacts that they have to respond to those illegal dumping. I'm going to stop right there and then ask if Mr. Rowan has anything to add to that statement.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes, thank you, Belinda. Yes, going back to Mr. Freeland's question on how can this be addressed, I know he did mention signs. I know the program does post signs to indicate not to illegally dump solid waste or household solid waste in the area. And also there would have to be community outreach. There would have to be presentations to educate people about not illegally dumping their household waste. So it basically would be a communication. Thank you.
And then could I
Go
add
ahead,
on
Ms. Shirley.
to the other part? Oh, thank you. My apologies for interrupting there, but so the other thing that I did want to mention is that what Shanat Ani mentioned as far as trash collection drive. Again, with that GAP program or that GAP funding, I am hoping to do 3 drives that would allow for us to collect as much trash as possible. And with those drives, I do want to make sure that we have significant community outreach within the areas so that we have a good turnout. And again, that education and that outreach component is important to continuing to battle illegal dumping. And then the other thing that I wanted to tack on is that Mr. Warren and I have been talking about requesting for those carryover funds next year so that we could do more of these drives. And we had mentioned to do a white I think the last one that they did here was several years ago, but they called it like a white trash collection. And the idea with that is to collect those appliances. So we would organize a drive that would allow for us to collect those appliances. So refrigerators and old washing machines, dryers, microwaves, all of these things we could collect when it comes to those white trash drives. So that's one thing that we are hoping to do with this GAP grant, or either that with the carryover fund. So we are looking at doing cleanup and then community outreach, and then trying to include that enforcement portion. And Shanat Ani, if you guys would allow us, it would be nice if we could tack this on as a recurring leadership team or a leadership discussion or work session, so that we could actually iron out a lot of these paths forward. So just wanted to add that on as well too. Shanat Ani, I apologize if I missed any items. There is also that joint, we could also ask for joint jurisdiction. I'm not sure exactly how that will work out, but Delegate Freeland, allow me to look into that possibility. So Chair, that'll be our response, and please let us know if we were unclear in certain areas. Thank you.
Honorable Daniels.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Kudo. Adunana Kudo. Attendance into sort of the Alpha Sokodo, AIC Gas Sokodo. Ado Kudo Nagaidam, EPA, Navajo Nation, A Kudo, Nikisan Dahaznet Kudo, Koko Kudo, A Nightil Kito, Kudo, Sado, Baye, and Dahaz Igi, Koko Nagaidam, illegal dumping. Ilvei the Yego a bandage in a hot throughout the Navajo Nation. Conagada Tango Yego in a hot Coco Adonana Betla with Ad and a ray. Oh, yeah, that did. Ad Yego they would Anash and Hodi a con lane that laco. Dabin McCoco, the Yego Naya the E. Now, glossing dark head, Ekashi the best as a Saint Chili dark head, the Yego hot. I call the day need in Halanaho. The main roads are quite good in Halonil, but liquid. See it, Yego and the Hazdi. Just like in my region over by Heshne. The race out to Flappy Kin, not the fun house again. The rate of Quenal shot the net of Chishade Tasha. Chishade. I could see Zegi Akon de Jao. I don't say or you. Dawi le ad, not ad. But over Nahashne. The rate of Honanja. There is. Okay, I don't think she's a day. I could on a ray or say, Horn House Ajiki. I don't know an array dam. Not Kate Ho, I don't an array dam. A Gasana, a Ajit she's a dish. Off the reservation. A cocoa hitcher, Alia. Hitcher, the Baba Hayado, no, without there is national monument for Lane. A cook at Ad in Chicago. You see a lot of those TVs, the radar, flat screen TVs, that I in the right see it. I don't know it's they. Or you don't aid and they go, I yell on this ad. Did it all the bashna. A co, Quizado on the Navajo Nation. Yeah, go back in the whole tea. A co, Quidona radar representing the Western Agency. Because husband Quidosha not Arnold Senegi. Western Agency. Yeah. I see them. I was on the air. I couldn't rate heavy in the sky. I don't know and they force Gump Hill. Force Gump. I don't know and they them. Codanesh Tarikin, Navajo National Monument. I don't the Antelope Canyon. I don't know them. Rainbow Bridge. That ego Bible Parks that Nesgo. I was on the air called me that is none of Sanago, a horse Argo. Hey, I see the house on the air called Belagana one that the car a call that the Danish But you don't know it goes. So, yeah, sure that ho. I don't know, Kudo. When Nikki saw you up a husband, yes, so Kudo. Till they. Yet I don't guess the one longer. In this area. But the next day, there's a transfer station. But the cost of to dump your trash there, a year go alone. That we don't find it or a little bag, trash bag, is like $2. I don't know that last year truck that load trash out on the refrigerators that something that has free on being on Kangi Ayoda it seems not that non later that the church echo yata is clean a cohort a the adult nation for Babanta case without a husband. I don't know without the get the net what that they report those in, but at that there's no response at that. A year go back now enforcement a year go back now even with the Rangers within the Western Agency there's only two Rangers to cover Western Agency. You all the way from Loop all the way to Mexican Hat, Utah. There's only two Rangers. All we got Aronana with resource illegal dumping, the EPA as enforcement. The quid that Neloside Bohanet, but basically, Nanat, how to say Babake, net on it. A cocoa area, a donut, a lawyer, Baba Hanas, the Hildokodo. Mazade NGSP body that an has got. How does she base on the national? How does she base on public airways now bend that on? Arunana Bevenant and Leniki, the Yego a Yenakati, the illegal dumping, but should have reported that. Question rate District 8 and District 2. I see that the Yenaka, the Bevenant and Leniki, illegal dumping, grazing permit holders that. What that they report that to the grazing officials, but then I do it then I don't have that. What they get I sit on his on this because the Bevenant this has met last night. I don't know but I see that it is unhasn't not so they don't have it I said nail so yeah. Should have not at all. Or that Echo rate has opened so the rate Quadotic and Quadoba or 3 guitar to have another work session. What are she on that? Salita is Mesa has so. Oh, yeah, I'm not letting out soft Mesa 8 or shorter. Say what I'm not Zoe is not Zoe is not so they can always about or 3 did a work session. So iba haot ze ko utai be pekesa na utai jono ado lebe ke heta has net on jono go be ani tabita testing as po net na di iliago so hat meuda ota be ke na no on joni ho go ayu anan la dit o ya do na tos ne ni so ida do ya smoda do put it out down not shalom ayo san ho. So, but in regards to illegal dumping, and rate Kay Hagi Rudash hot. My brother, the area generate Eastern Agency. Aji Kay has cut from there. Edo Yego Bebe, Oyanan, the Kohalita di Nisa. So, Taiva Baban, that's case of Kodo, Arunana Kodo director and Lenigish Deja. Oya had the work session on the door lesson. I say Bohanet, if she's a Bohanet, son again. It is nations of us, that's case ago. I don't know, illegal dumping. I don't know, and I down. Oh, yeah, but now, and lately I haven't been saying that, at the chapter level. Planning meetings, chapter meetings. Oh, yeah, but now, and that without, but lately I don't want to snake down the educating our Navajo people on illegal dumping. Ilvegi last water. I don't yet a whole head snow that without with the snake there. I don't know the snake go. So I think we need to keep saying that. So could on the rate and then again. Make it and Lenny that without I say my Babandi Nick, Yahoto Nesako. So it is about habits without Mr. Chair. I won't share the station out of later on. Now that's the good. Thank you.
Nathan, Honorable Daniels, Navajo Nation, Chicago, ICNH, and Navajo data at our transfer station at then landfill at then at our immigration officials at not text it, you don't email this. I said, So that etalago. Koan detail zego kobahan detail. Region official and lepid no. Should be gahata but that neither. So I guess non nishtan Honorable Daniels. You're very right about that. I'm going to give some time back over to Ms. Shirley. If we could respond and touch up on some of these subjects. Honorable Freeland did have a question on revising penalties for illegal dumping as well. Ms. Shirley?
We could, thank you, Chair, for the time to respond again. Ado, again to Shanat Ani Freeland and to Shanat Herman Daniels of the Nana. The first item to Shanat Ani Delegate Freeland, we can certainly look at revising the penalties. And one of the things, or one of the tripping things that we have with that is exactly what was just discussed here. So whenever we do start pursuing responsible parties, whenever we start pursuing respondents, one of the things that does come up is, what am I supposed to do? There's no place to take my trash. So that tends to be one of the things that we always run into. We do have a listing that we provide to individuals. I mean, one of the ideas could be to backpack in and backpack out. For instance, we could try to encourage our Navajo citizens to use some of the facilities that are within the border towns. That tends to be a little bit more convenient. For instance, that transfer station in Waterflow. It's $18 for a whole truckload. And I know that might be pricey for grandma and grandpa, but that's one way to dispose of our solid waste responsibly. But again, I'm going to go back to just saying that we could certainly start looking at revising some of our penalties. And when we do another work session, I can provide better responses to Delegate Freeland's question on joint jurisdiction, or the jurisdictional situations that we find in Eastern. And then I have on here on my notes that I will look into revising our penalties too. So those are two items that I can certainly ask for to be discussed on the next work session. And then my response to Delegate Daniels is, yes, enforcement is certainly a problem. And we do want to, again, hopefully get some kind of revenue through the surge fee and through the maybe perhaps even a tax. So that was one proposal that's on the table. And again, looking to my leadership with RDC to see what we could do as a path forward as regarding to those surge fee and the tax. And then one of the things that I did want to mention is that we are developing a survey here at Navajo EPA. One of the surveys that we developed were specifically to chapters. We wanted to send out a survey to all of the chapters to gauge how many of them had transfer stations, how much it cost, or how much they paid from the chapters, how much they're receiving in revenues. We have a pretty lengthy survey that we wanted to send out to the chapters and to kind of get some feedback on what the chapters might think is needed in their area. I've had several chapters visit us here at Navajo EPA, and I kind of get different, how would you say, they want us to do different things. And again, what I mean by that is I had a chapter that came here and they wanted money to continue to collect the solid waste. They wanted money to do their own recycling program. So they were willing to take on that responsibility of managing their own transfer stations. They wanted to manage their own recycling programs within the communities. And then I had other chapters that came in and didn't want to do that too. They wanted, for instance, Navajo EPA or another entity within the Navajo Nation to do that for them. So so I'm getting mixed messages how it's across chapters as well too. So the idea with the survey is kind of gauging what the chapters needed and what they would want. And then the other survey that we were working on here is to do just a public survey. And that public survey, it's starting to get a little lengthy. So we had to kind of cut some of those questions out, but that's one that we wanted to do. And that survey we would try to, post on our website, and then use some of social media capabilities to try to get a survey out to the public. And the main intent with that survey to the public was to gauge whether or not they thought that a surge fee or like a tax or something along those lines would be favorable. So just kind of getting a feel for what, again, our Navajo citizens would be open to. So those are two surveys that we were working on as well too. Mr. Warren, did you have anything to add as well too?
No, not at this time. Thank you, Belinda.
And then I did get a text message from Mr. Warren. I was asking him what chapters would be the beneficiaries of the RAID grant that we have, and that's Chicxulub, Bread Springs, Manuelito, Church Rock, Pinedale, and Smith Lake. So those are the 5 chapters that we are partnered with to do the RAID grant. And I know that Warren was working on finishing off the contract, so please expect us to be out in those chapters within the next quarter. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley, for your response. We, as the Oversight Committee, we certainly work well together with your program. You have a really good staff there. We've always admired the work of your staff there, like Mr. Sherman, Mr. Rowan, as well as the program across the hill over there at St. Michael's under Mr. Daryl Yazzi's shop there. So continue the good work over there, and we appreciate it. And this is how it should work. Oversight committees working well with oversight programs, and we'll continue to work and make improvements for the Navajo Nation. Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you're up.
As Chairman, though, committee members, though our staff, the presenters, and the listening audience, ayat enan to kehekwe chaho agi, shitej kwe yitlamat negi Miss Shirley keheko. Ado staff to kwe iya bandaho ahokadati ko ke e kwe hiltawilna. I have a question more specific to lands that are partitioned to Navajo partitioned lands. MPL one of my chapters, we have MPL, we have HPL, other we have former Bennett Freeze area, other we have Big Navajo. So the different land statuses, as you may recall, former Bennett Freeze area, 40 years without development, without any improvements, including landfills, including waste transfer stations, and including modern day conveniences, things that would provide conveniences or services, although infrastructure. Bennett Freeze, 40 years
do ada do le neko halpin do halne but echo it get including trash management, waste management. If you can just imagine an area that had no development for 40 years, but yet people continue to live there. The people living in conditions the best way they can. The waste management, so you can just put your imagination to work. Those are the challenges out in Western Agency, former Bennett Freeze area. My concern is for the MPL areas. It's a little different status than Big Navajo. It is Navajo, but the policies, regulations that apply to those areas are somewhat different, including the grazing permits. Again, so you bring in waste management or lack of waste management into that scenario. Johnson, so Miss Shirley should deja. It's a lit off. But the English thing, you see, EPA thing. So work is all cut out for us, all of us. Let's not leave ourselves out of what we're talking about here. Honorable Daniels and I'd be happy to what in Nana told the Chun Chidet the Ebed. Ko di bandit nigi anilso nishin hideti akodi MPL the former Bennett Freeze areas the waste management planning or to address that, to bring that about nahatashi about habanda ido benit ido what other this. And then I think DCD also is waiting to, present their report, their information. I look forward to hearing from them. DD at MPL, the former Bennett Freeze areas. Bandi, Kaigi, Chuchota, Naha, Adolef, Benot, and don't get it, Neko. All over Navajo Nation, 110 chapters in the 4 states, 3 states, in every community, this problem exists, lacking the solid waste management. So meaning basically illegal dumps, multiple dumps, not just 1, 2, 3, but there's a lot of them. And even I did one of my chapters, see if chapter officials knew how many illegal dumps were in our community. So just an example, and the response was like over 20 dumps. No, well, I wish they would have said bandit, this. Bandit, I think nakabiki yatis shit and shit. But ne do che igil tahil ne it ashing igil tahil ne do this to eat to sunanda. One thing is for sure, one thing is certain. Next year, 12 months later, the problem grows, the problem increases. 2 years of the problem increases. 3 years now, 5 years from now, so time is of the essence. Dumping occurs each and every day. And as Honorable Daniels indicated, the Western agencies, I see,
they credo yo ba da we net kwa da ho jon ye jo da di no e she dan ni so when they that na ban de kwe ge she ke ya la ha ho jon na jo da di no da ni ji da do ka na kan da no ka da ho jon ye da di no bi da ni le ka le je dan ni ho da ko di tho along the Little Colorado River. Those are places where the public doesn't go, and that's where people prefer to place their trash, and sometimes in the running river. So it ends up from one community to the next, maybe 60, 70 miles downstream. It's pretty bad in that way. It's very serious problem that we have on the nation, lacking solid waste management. Ako akadahani ito peso bahid din tole. Peso shinsu do ayu bahid la. Pati ni peso ndate ante nebukai do wachudati no. Shehe akoteki. Konel peso di bandit ni bandate afshin tani pedatones. Asha ni pesa hotone kotesto. So I guess my last question to Ms. Shirley is the ARPA funding opportunities. Ishinka padasto ko osada the cleaning up illegal dumps. I saw in one of the expenditure plans where IHS cleaning up illegal dumps. Not everyone, but just a few communities. I saw how that's in a spreadsheet under IHS. In your organization, your shop, stage, it does a little expandant. Asahat at ito. Ishito show the shin the job. A little banda either totally. But other night, if Chinanta, thank you, Chairman. Back to you.
Yeah, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, for your concerns, statements, and your question here. Ms. Shirley, your response?
Thank you, Chair. My response to Shana, Delegate Walker, is that one, we could, I do have this as an item to research and provide a response back to you, hopefully in the next work session that we have, and that's regarding the NPL and the Bennett Freeze areas. So I do have that tacked for myself. And then the response to your last question there is that we are working with DCD. So my favorite sister from Tuba City, Dr. Yellerman, we've been working with her, and then Mr. Martin, and I know that there was another younger Mr. Martin that we were working with. I believe her name was Zenaba. So we have been working and collaborating where we can to pursue ARPA funding. And I know within DCD they do have some monies identified, I think, but I will let them speak to that portion. So again, my response to Shana would be that we are working with DCD to pursue ARPA projects. So yes, thank you. That would be my response to Shahat Nana.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, do you have a follow-up question?
Chairman, probably later in the presentations.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair Walker, in the Commission, Ms. Shirley and Mr. Rowan, our Division Community Development staff, our staff that Kodogi assist on Ogi Adobe Kidishki Hinsen Kodogi information Linigi, Ben Hija when lagi do presentation that egida wako ashani for defiance is on the list as the top one, joke that egi ani ni and Faz and Michelle, where we went through the different communities at Red Lake. And we saw all that debris in the back and then going through the wash and then how that water flows down. And even those farmers in that area, although they use that water at times at the spring time for irrigation, they try to keep it free of debris, yet we have trash always in there. Towards Buell Park, we had that cleaned out a couple of years back, and signs and fences went back up again. It's happening again where there's trash and areas out there, so I always ask the chapter officials and the community members, what else can we do to improve, to stress to the community members not to throw trash out there along the road. Because a lot of these communities that I represent, we still have sheep herders out there, we still have cattle ranchers out there, and individuals that ride horses out there and whatnot. And they say the same thing, when is Navajo Nation gonna start working to impose strict ordinances or strict laws on people who are going to violate, to trash dumping. And at one time during the summer, there was an individual that I actually caught myself trying to dump his trash, and I recorded him and I sent him, I videotaped him and dumping it. And he told me he denied it, and I said, I seen you. And he asked, what I was going to do, look in his vehicle. I told him, no, that's not my right to look in your vehicle, but I seen you dump the trash and I'm asking you to go get it, but they need, things like that, and I know that, that's what our community members deal with as well, because we get these reports and we see it for ourselves as leaders, we see it for ourselves. And sometimes, we have to handle it the best way that we can as well, because, it is something. And then, when we have ceremonies and then, we make offerings out in the mountains, you go out there and you see like a whole living room set, bedroom set out there. And it's like, how are we supposed to make our offerings with this trash out here? And, it makes you really wonder, what are we doing to our land? And looking at the presentation slide that you have all these tires, what are we going to do as far as, not even not just looking at landfill sites, but also, what are we going to do as far as looking at, recycling stations, recycling compactors. There was a presentation that was given to me at one time on a machine that was going to be used towards recycling all kinds of stuff, and including from plants to tires to different things that the nation could use to in the future towards an economic resource. Are we going to go towards that direction as well, to look at using our trash in that way? But at the same time, we have our Navajo people over here saying, well, Navajo Nation is making money off my trash, so I want some of that money too. It's like, okay, well, then do we going to charge as well, and to even ask, like you stated, for them to use transfer stations in border towns. The chapters, the 4 chapters that I work with, and then the surrounding chapters, they charge $1 a bag. And at times, I'm out there with them, assisting them with the trash, and these individuals, they do, and the chapters try to make it to where it's like an incentive for them, to say, well, if you dump your trash here, you get 2 free dumps or whatever. It's trying to meet them at least halfway, and it's like he stated earlier, educating. How are we going to educate our people? Because right now, when you think back on it, there was not this much trash before. because people, our grandparents, our nollies and our mustanis, they chase that they knew how to recycle, and they their cans and whatnot. They knew where to take it and how to reuse it, and that you didn't see that much trash back then. But now, you have all of this debris all the way from vehicle parts and household furniture and everything else, and out there in these grazing lands and these arroyas, and the washes as well. So, as far as the recycling portion, and you looking towards machines and whatnot, is that a possibility that we could possibly look at? And then also, what are we going to, how are we going to present that, if that does happen? And then, as far as the citations go, that you mentioned prior, and the beginning part of the presentation, I commend you and the staff for doing that, because a lot of times, I think it's, and even down to the community levels, it's like you have people that say, well, they're my relative, I don't want to say anything, but to me, it's like, and this person that I caught is actually a relative of mine. And I told him, how dare you do that? I have to uphold my laws too. And so, it was really funny to see that, but to also know that, that, I see a different part of that person now. And, now, I have heard, from child officials that person now actually comes in to pay for their trash, in one of the communities nearby. So, that's one thing, and I think that, it's certain individuals that do that. But then, there's the repetitors too that you stated earlier, that don't understand it, that don't, but yet, it's like, well, you have money to go get these items, you have money to purchase these things. So put the money forward to go dispose of your trash. So the other area that we haven't really touched on too is the ones that are, making little landfills at their homes and burning their trash there as well. Little landfills that they dig out, or they have the chapter dig them a trench too, and to burn their trash, and they dispose of it like that too. And there's a couple of areas here in this area that some families do that. But the major part, is the grazing lands. And I hear this from Red Lake, I hear this from Sawmill, the trash and whatnot that these livestock eat, how much it costs the owner to take in their livestock and have them have surgery to get those off or get those out of them, because they have digested it. So there's just some areas, that I want to mention this morning, as how can we help also our ranchers and our grazing permit holders out there with making sure that their lands or grazing lands, the grazing lands that we have, are still going to be usable. That's it, Shana. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Ms. Shirley?
Thank you for the question, Shinat Ani. Shituji, Delegate Stewart, thank you. Our Chair, thank you for the time again to respond. And I'll make my response brief to say that we could certainly look at stricter penalties. And again, I will tack that on as part of revising our penalties and report back on that item during our next work session. And then as far as recycling is concerned, I'm certain that DCD is looking at recycling initiatives as well too. So just wanted to add those to that, or add that response back to Shitu Delegate Stewart, and then to you too, Shinat Ani Danosini. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Keelan Begay Jr. Honorable Begay. Honorable Begay. We'll come back to him. I believe he probably lost phone reception.
Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions?
People, I got a
Ashma,
comment.
who's this?
Eugene So, the Hortus Navajo Nation.
Honorable Show, you have the floor.
Yeah, there's not technically decisions. The company had to finish all the master expression. I have your Navajo. CGG was asking our LDA to get back on it. So, through the process, what they're requesting for, like re-amending this and that, etc., and try to get some landfill on the Navajo Nation. That would save a lot of Navajo Nation chapter funds for you basically if you read off the reservation. Even now, but we need to do it right away with the snow business. So I would like to keep pursuing that. I think all those I don't know landfill. But I'm just case out on my Kinaha, that's not far. Yes, we need to get it done, something done right away. Eight over had this from Hala, when it be 8 or something on the modern school, not in the housing, housing, other landfill out there that you landed, or you know, so she's a house critter, and the Katson on how not such as that. So 8 hours, you last something, that and but always, it's not the last, it's not. I remember who housing started, so all these things, we're just going forward and forward. So I thought even that ever since that the development started. So now let's get something done. So that's what I would like to request. I don't want to talk no more. Hey, Shadow, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So. Kuroba Hensiki landfill at all Niskanenigi. RDC oversight and loan by Yale Chico. We took a trip out to Scottsdale. Danil E. Ara Sahonsi Kai. Aro Sitsilla, Honorable Kialan Begay, IC and Adlastoyan Anna. But in now, she legislation needs host or less at Scotia at Abanda Seat. The RDC could oversight need clinical programs even na hot on a nesto. Do you know rage go facho do you that deal chip and away? Other committees, Ishi Barcelona, Banana Shiki, Upper Bansi Kesto, Bahudini, Zeniki, Benina, how we have that respect for other committees, do you hona, as Ishi Gades eat or hona, hot out of do the need a yo. Navigia tip data need hot end the could RDC Niharo on Nishiki, Argisiego, Hajo Navigia Hajo or Nis. That obviously just she's go the Napahachis chin laughter. A cotigi qui and how tigi abayed kito. But we have a new executive director. But on his had neto work session and not all nate. A coti work session gi RDC go basala. Ikades given in a hot abe has ani be had certain programs. A Kodishi RDC abbehished a letter list, so it hot about this. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions? At then Goshinas Nanado list. We go to B presentation. Ms. Shirley, thank you very much for your presentation. If you would stay on the call with us, your staff, Mr. Warren Rowan, we would appreciate that. Yeah, Ms. Shirley. Okay. Dr. Yellowman and Ms. Sunlotsa Jim, you have your presentation next on the implementation of the solid waste program.
Good morning, Chair.
Oh, yeah,
Good morning, honorable members of RDC. And members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. I am joined by staff from DCD. I'm joined by our department manager from ASC, Ms. Dunlopsta, Jim Martin, and I am also joined by a DCD staff, Ms. Zanaba Martin. We do have a presentation and we've sent that to members of RDC, to Mr. Tohi, on the implementation of the DCD Solid Waste Management Department. This is a presentation that outlines the duties and responsibilities of the department. It also shares some history and background on previous work from the department and when it was deleted, I guess, as a department from the Navajo Nation. But most importantly, you'll find information and data that we have been gathering, and the data that supports some of the ongoing efforts. There are many chapters that are engaging in solid waste services, and our primary goals of establishing a department. You'll find, as it was discussed earlier, the development of a solid waste department has some major pillars or major goals. One of them, of course, is educating and changing the mindset, which is a huge task. Changing the mindset of being land stewards of the land we live on, of the beautiful Navajo Nation, and having access to community members so we can begin educating. The other is recycling, how to reuse and recycle items, which I think it was mentioned by Delegate Stewart that our elders have known this practice for many years. The other is being mindful, and there's quite a bit of illegal dumping, as it was shared earlier. So we have long-term goals, but there are also short-term immediate goals that do need to be addressed. And some of those do have, some of those goals are in need of financial support and funding. But also we're in a deficit, so to speak, when it comes to addressing solid waste. We have been gathering the information. We have a solid presentation, and through our plan of operation with RDC, we hope to achieve this, and we think it'll be a major milestone for the administration, and working with both the executive and legislative branch on achieving this. So with that, Chair, I would like to turn the time over to Ms. Jim Martin and Ms. Zanaba, who will share the presentation and the data that has been received and currently received. So Chair and members of RDC, if I could turn the time over to Ms. Jim Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yellowman. Hello, Ms. Jim Martin and Nanaba, you have the floor to present. Thank you.
Yeah, Asian, and can you hear me?
Yes, you may proceed.
Okay, good morning again to our RDC members and all those on the line. Thank you for the time and for requesting a report on this very important topic. We do have a slide presentation that we have sent out to the RDC committee members, and also I am attempting to share screen here, so bear with me as my computer is a little slow. I do want to share, first of all, that we do appreciate the presentation from Navajo Nation EPA, and also the coordinated efforts we've been working on with them. We know that this is the beginning of a big journey for the work ahead of us in solid waste management for the Navajo Nation. And so we are looking forward to continued partnership with Navajo EPA. We do have a presentation again that we sent, and I will go to the second slide just to provide an overview and also just to introduce myself formally to those on the call that do not know me. As the ASC department manager, we have been working with all 110 chapters through our ASC service offices, and our ASC staff have been providing training and technical assistance to the chapters regarding solid waste management planning, as well as assisting them with their community land use plans. As you all know, we do have our community land use planning committees, and each chapter does have a community land use plan or manual that they develop. Within those manuals, under Title 26, the LGA does provide opportunities and grants the chapters with the authority to address their local issues related to conserving natural resources, preserving Navajo heritage and culture, and also creating their land use plans. We do appreciate the work of all of our Club C or club committees for all the efforts they put into creating their community land use plans, and especially when they put extra effort into addressing solid waste management in those plans. We do work with the CPMD team when they are working on projects that chapters would like to designate funds to that are related to solid waste management. And so we want to thank our CPMD counterparts for also helping us with the community land use plans. We do know that it's important for our chapters to protect their natural resources and also the cultural resources. And so that has been a part of our training and presentations to the chapters with the assistance of our intern who started with us, as well as with the CPMD team and our SPPS who are out there working with the chapters to help them develop those solid waste management plans. In the next slide, we do have a timeline to share with you. As you know, in 1998, DCD initiated what was called the former Solid Waste Management Program. And that began in that time frame. It was small, it was the beginning for solid waste management. And then in 2002, there was Solid Waste Management Program provided, which was really just a collection point for around 28 chapters back in 2002. It was very minimal. And unfortunately, in 2016, the former DCD director rescinded the plan of operation for the solid waste management program that used to be within the Division of Community Development. I'm not sure what all the factors were and the plans that were being implemented back in that time. But since then, we have not had a solid waste management program or solid waste management department for the Navajo Nation. A lot of it has fallen on the Navajo EPA department, and I know that that's where a lot of the background and information is coming from the Navajo EPA presentation. With 2017, the former RDC committee did approve a research proposal that was conducted by the ZIA group, as they're called. And this was a in-depth research project that was conducted on an integrated solid waste management plan for the entire Navajo Nation. That RDC approval from 2017, as I understand it, still continues.
And we have been utilizing that information to help and assist the Division of Community Development in implementing the amendments, or I should say, a new plan of operation for the Solid Waste Management Department within the Division of Community Development. So it would no longer be a small program. It would be a large department that we are proposing with a new plan of operation within the Division of Community Development. We have presented to RDC members some initial information on our plans for the department, and I'll just go over that again just to help refresh your memory and also understand some of the progress and changes that we've made at this point. The Solid Waste Management Department right now is to help with a variety of services for the 110 chapters in their efforts to support solid waste management. And we're looking at various methods such as operational efficiency, economics, cost effectiveness, and just being environmentally sound as we assist all 110 Navajo Nation chapters. This includes certified chapters and non-certified chapters. We are proposing to emphasize local responsibility with providing education, training, workshops, technical assistance, planning, information on facility setup and maintenance, organizing community cleanup events, coordinating with other tribal, municipal, county, state, and federal agencies, and also identifying and securing funds from outside sources. In our plan of operation, to begin with, we will be proposing some initial positions within the new department, program manager or department manager who would be supervised by the DCD executive director, as well as either senior program project specialist or senior planner, administrative support staff. And as we continue to request for funding, we do know that this is a huge responsibility, so we would propose additional positions to help us fulfill the purpose of the Solid Waste Management Department. Organizationally, again, we would be returning back to solid waste management within DCD. We would work closely with our departments, the Capital Projects Management Department, the ASC Department, and the CHID Department to help us, as well as rural addressing, also known as the Addressing Authority within the Division of Community Development. All play a critical role in addressing solid waste management for the Navajo Nation, and also working closely with Navajo EPA and also the Land Department and the RDC Committee. The next slide I'm sharing is the duties and authorities that we are proposing within our plan of operation. The Solid Waste Management Department would develop policies and procedures necessary for effective management, and we would take appropriate actions to accomplish those purposes. We would conduct periodic reviews and evaluation of staff and the Solid Waste Management Department, prepare annual physical operating budgets for approval by the executive branch and our oversight committee, as well as the Navajo Nation Council. Right now, again, there's going to be a huge need for funding, and there will be funding requests coming in to support the implementation of this department. The Solid Waste Management Department would also represent the Navajo Nation with local, state, and federal entities with our Navajo Nation leaders. I want to turn the time over to our team lead for the Solid Waste Management Task Force that was established with Dr. Yellowman, and give her some time to introduce herself and also explain what we have developed thus far and then I'll go into next steps to conclude our presentation. So Honorable Chair, if I could turn the time over to Zanabot Martin, we'd like to give her time to go over the next slides.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Ms. Nanaba Martin, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Yat a binish a do shidine she ya zanaba arita Martin inisha sanabeshin shle nakai bashishin tabadashnale ado alkadene deshiche totlagaidet nasha. Good evening, everyone, and I will continue sharing the slides for our presentation. I am working here with the Solid Waste Management Task Force at DCD. In between college, I was interning here at DCD since the summer of 2019. So I graduated in May with my master's degree, and I am done with college, my educational journey for now. And my master's research was related to solid waste management issues and topics. A lot of my work with my research was to help revitalize our teachings as Dine to make Nahastan Ikema a healthier and cleaner place for our future generations. That included looking at our Dine fundamental laws, and the natural law is one of our 4 fundamental laws, and that establishes our relationship as well as being the original stewards and caretakers of Dinepekea, as Dr. Yellman had mentioned earlier. So I'm excited to be here and help with Navajo Nation EPA, and also to bring back the Navajo Nation Solid Waste Management Department. So going back to the slides, ASC collected data regarding the status of each chapter's solid waste management status for chapters COVID-19 emergency implementation plans. I had consolidated that data into in a summary here. So out of the 8 ASC regions, the chapter solid waste management status included 69 out of the 110 chapters had open solid waste management services and facilities. 40 out of the 110 chapters had closed or no solid waste management services and facilities. And then there was just one response we did not get from one chapter. And we will go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So as of yesterday and these past 2 weeks with the Solid Waste Management Task Force, we are in the process of surveying all 110 chapters. So as of yesterday, 33 chapters or 30% of the 110 chapters have submitted their survey responses. We will work to get all the surveys collected within the next 2 weeks. The data that we receive from these survey responses will be summarized into a report that will be shared with the chapters and Navajo Nation leadership. This is the beginning of the survey. And just to share some data that we have as of right now from that survey, the question number 6 on the survey asks the chapters, what is the status of their chapter solid waste management services and facilities? So out of the 33 chapters that responded, this is what it's looking like right now. And as you can see, about half of the 33 chapters do have open facilities. About 39% do not have solid waste management services or facilities. And we can go to the next slide. And here's another example of the questions from the survey. Question 15 asked, what types of recyclable materials does the chapter collect and recycle? So out of the 33 chapters that responded as of yesterday, you can see they have made their own chapter community efforts to collect recyclable materials such as aluminum, number 1 plastics, corrugated cardboard and paperboard. And then it also has an option for the chapters that do not collect recyclable materials at the bottom of this graph. And next slide, please. The 28th question in the survey asked the chapters, as of now, what solid waste management services and facilities does your chapter need? Yes. And again, this asks the chapters to share their story of what they witnessed over this COVID-19 pandemic in terms of solid waste management services that they really needed for their community members. So this is some of the answers. It varies from certain types of waste containers that they need to different various services for recycling, funds to help the improvement of current chapter facilities that already exist, waste compactors, stations to reduce illegal dumping, as well as land and funds to build more of solid waste management operations across our reservation at the chapter level. So this is, again, just some of the data we have right now, but once we get all 110 chapter survey responses, we will consolidate that data and share it again back to the chapters and with our Navajo Nation leadership. I think is there another slide? Oh, here we go. So here are the next steps for the Solid Waste Management Department. We are finalizing the Solid Waste Management Plan of Operation with the Department of Justice. We are going to continue meeting with Navajo Nation EPA. We are developing a budget to request for funding. We are continuing to provide training and technical assistance to chapters for their CLEP manuals. And we are also preparing to implement Solid Waste Management Department by October 2022. And that'll include developing the positions in the organizational chart, action plans, and partnerships. Again, our contact person, it was Dr. Yellerman. Her email is listed on this slide. And the image here says, let us take care for our Mother Earth. Let us not be wasteful. Again, as Indigenous peoples, we do have the knowledge and practices and teachings of taking care of Mother Earth. So that is what we are working to do with our task force. To our leadership and to guests on the call.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Congratulations on your educational endeavors. We're very proud of our young people when they let us know that they've gone off to school and come back. So continue the good work and Ms. Jim Martin, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, Nana, I think the main point here is that we are understanding that Navajo Nation EPA does need a lot of support, and so does the Division of Community Development. So we do look forward to additional work sessions to help create a concerted effort to address these needs. And also, I do think the public survey that Navajo EPA is proposing to conduct would be very valuable, and I would encourage that that be conducted as soon as we can as we're in this pandemic. So with that, I will turn the time back over to you and Dr. Yellerman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yellerman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair and members of RDC. I just want to thank Ms. Sanlatsta Jim Martin and Zanwa. I'm just really proud of the work from our Solid Waste Management Task Force and reaching out to the chapters, communicating to the chapters these efforts. The other thing I want to share is there's a little bit more work that needs to be done as far as some of the current existing transfer stations that are in agreement with the chapters and bordering larger communities as well as counties. Does require a little bit more rolling up our sleeves and getting to the language of those contracts or those agreements, and how in the past some of the chapters have worked in coordination with counties and border towns. The other is chapters who are considering a land withdrawal for solid waste services. those concerns still continue to be brought up by chapters, and we want to support chapters in those efforts. There's some chapters that express not wanting to utilize any of their land tracts for solid waste, just in the mere representation of a landfill. So those are some concerns that we still need to address. Right now, currently, we are Division of Community Development. We are in coordination with the San Juan County Transfer Station and several other large transfer stations, which we communicate with and reach out to them for technical assistance as well. We also did tour a tribally owned landfill, and that tribally owned landfill we toured with RDC in 2019. That tribe utilizes technologies to transform excess gases and transform existing types of recycling items. So there's a science behind solid waste management, and we are trying to reach out to that type of expert and technology for our solid waste management department. But right now, we certainly appreciate the efforts from the staff at DCD, along with NEPA, Director Shirley. We've been having ongoing conversations. There also have been members from, like we said, the chapters who've reached out. We've even had chapters receive awards for their solid waste management efforts, one at Chachita and then also Chinle have gone for training, Tuba City. So our chapters are really making an honest effort to address solid waste. Like I said, the more dire need is probably the cleaning and identification of some of these dumping grounds that sadly have arose and probably been brought to light. And maybe they've been around for a long time, but now we're seeing them more so on social media. But nonetheless, we would like to prepare and continue to work with EPA on addressing those. And then just respectfully sharing that when it comes to caring for the land, it's really everybody's responsibility. And I thank many people who pull off on the side of the road and clean. They're picking up trash on the side of the road. So if we can encourage that practice and behavior, and not just single the responsibility to one or two divisions, it really is all of our duty to take care of the land, and that's part of the education we want to express. But certainly we welcome the opportunity to create that department. So thank you, Chair and members of RDC. That will conclude our presentation. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yellowman. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions on the solid waste program? None. Navajo EPA and Division of Community Development certainly appreciate the mentioning of chapters and how to provide training and technical assistance, and including this into their club manuals. So we do need a Navajo Nation landfill. A few years ago, we had gone down to Scottsdale to pretty much tour that place, and I know Honorable Begay has been advocating on behalf of this for quite some times, and I believe that work will finally come to fruition. And it's good to hear by October 2022 that DCD will start implementing this again. And as we talk, I know there's concerns of funding, but we can certainly do something to reduce illegal dumping across the Navajo Nation. So this is a start. And education is the key. Also, continued education. The Nebinan Kin Baby Aroda and then Lego at the house here. But non hit I live off of N36 highway. Aquagi Shaganjo the Hadi teen the Cushing and Hagan. Someone dumped a whole bunch of tires right there. One morning we went out there. People were driving. We saw all those tires just scattered there. Then you go west, not too far. There's another turnoff there, and someone dumped a huge television, about 82 inches, and then a sofa chair also. At that age, I mean, if you drive from the west to the east on that N36 highway from Shiprock to Farmington, near the Northern Edge Casino, in the morning you could just see glitter along the highway. Too many glass. Oh, the net they had that day the OBK as the downtown. It's sad. And communities, chapters along this road, they always try and volunteer somewhere around March or April. Earth Day, when they clean it up, and then the next year, there's just too many traffic on this road, and people just throw trash off anytime. There's even a septic tank, a plastic septic tank that's sitting on the highway about 2 miles from where I live. And I'm not saying it me. Wait out of it, base of it, shot, me. Landfill, the Halon Hodol, Neto, wait out a solid waste program. And the Aja employees give base of Sapa Short Ocean Big Hasto. And I like this idea earlier. Baha Oji, Miss Shirley, trash collection drive, community outreach. So thank you, everybody. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions? And Honorable Paul Begay, thank you for being on the call with us. Could you please introduce yourself? Are you still on the call? I remember you were on the call. Honorable Begay, Paul Begay.
Chairman, I have a comment, Freeland, when Honorable Paul Begay introduces himself.
Honorable Paul Begay. Then, Honorable Freeland, you have the floor.
Chairman, thank you. Staff as well. I'm also on a 2 planning meetings, so juggling my weight today. I just want to say thank you, of course, to Division Community Development, but also to say thank you to San Juan County. And I know Dr. Yeoman mentioned that there's a partnership, and of course, thank you for keeping that partnership intact. I have 3 transfer stations in Lake Valley, White Rock. They share one, as well as there's one at Sisson Disley. There's also one at Hilltop in Herfinale. I know for you, Chairman, you have one at Upper Fruitland in Nahanzad. Honorable Karate, I think, has one at Sand Springs or at the Burnham Junction. And Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton does have one in Shiprock as well. Just the historic history of this. One of my chapter presidents, Mr. Irvin Chavez, when he was a commissioner, really advocated for these developments. And it's a very unique model that we have in partnership we have with San Juan County. Yes, we help pay for them, partially. But if we could establish other partnerships like this, maybe with McKinley, especially McKinley, Apache or Navajo or Coconino, or even San Juan, Utah, imagine how we could address this problem. Maybe even help develop free trash days or free transfer days. I don't know, just something like that, Chairman. But I just want to say thank you to Division of Community Development, and I'm real hopeful that we get this plan of operation going through as well, because I know there's some language in there that pertains to solid waste. And you know, I'm real hopeful that we can continue this partnership we have with San Juan County, New Mexico as well. So, yeah, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Dr. Yellowman.
Thank you, Delegate Freeland, for your comments. The relationship with the San Juan County Transfer Station was established prior to me coming on board, and it is a subsidized type of relationship. There's an overall operating cost for the transfer station, and the annual cost of operation for that transfer station to the surrounding area and to the communities it serves. When operating costs are not met by some of the fees, as it was mentioned earlier, some transfer stations require fees, then the Navajo Nation DCD, we pay those fees. It is a sufficient way of operating, but it does, again, back to that education, teaching our Navajo people the values and the benefits of utilizing a transfer station is going to be a larger task that we'll be taking on. The other value also in part of our state, or I'm sorry, our solid waste task force team is utilizing and communicating through outlets. So for example, DCD, we get to help and work with council on establishing the Summer Youth Employment Program. The Summer Youth Employment Program is also an outlet we can utilize to educate the young people and chapters. That's just one avenue. So we're hopeful in trying to reach out. We're hopeful in how to utilize social media in a positive way to address solid waste. So these are just some areas we'd like to exercise a little bit more, but our relationship with San Juan County Transfer Station and other counties that have engaged in services with the Navajo Nation are really important right now, and maintaining those relationships are important. So we're still doing a scan with the Navajo Nation on which chapters and areas have an existing relationship, and to resurface those contracts to see how we can help support. The other is solid waste, and having the Navajo Nation own a solid waste department and utility is really important. So Navajo Nation, DCD, we can prepare the steps, but in the future, it may be as large as a utility service, similar to NTUA's a utility service. So it has the potential to be a large utility service company, but certainly we're doing the groundwork and the foundation for a solid waste department, sir. So thank you, Chair and members of RDC.
Yeah, Dr. Yellowman. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions? Honorable Begay, are you back on the call with us? But then if there's no further comments or questions on the agenda, number 4, questions, recommendations, and follow-up. It was recommended that we have a work session with Navajo EPA. This is just a leadership meeting. Perhaps this work session needs to be in person and perhaps at Twin Arrows. These are very good subjects. We can't just jump into things and say, oh, I'm going to introduce the legislation. We have to carefully provide an analysis, have things as far as important information that we need. We take that and move forward and say, okay, grazing official hands, so go see the deeds. Yeah, 5 agency there, grazing executive officers that. But educated on it. A coid over has an Ilia go other we get that I had all changed update. It got a happy that edition and grazing official all land board and then it's a nego now over has on it or the net out of height out of baby can over to that so then he just that over has on it that she la and hit it nature. Even now, RDC and Nibet, I see people eat and Isinil, and not on Isinil, and the way that you're at the chapters done. I'm glad that DCD and EPA are reaching out to chapters, and that's the way it should be, and that's how it should work. Collecting important information so we can create laws to make things better on our nation, especially with this trash issue. You see, it's a problem everywhere. So I just want to say thank you, and we will work on a work session to include DCD and EPA, and if there's others that we need to put on there, we can do that. And from it, we should be able to have a concurred legislation. So landfill bedit nenegi Aladin Hinhasilla RDC. This is our area. This is our area Kwagi. So any other comments or questions? If not, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Shirley, Mr. Rowan, Dr. Yellowman, Ms. Sunlotsa, Jim Martin, Nanaba Martin, we'll have another work session scheduled. Thank you, everybody. Be safe out there. Do take care of yourself. It is currently 11:30 a.m. and we will go ahead and conclude this meeting. We're now officially adjourned. Hakona. Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Yeah.